Hi, I'm Cameron. I just read comics. I love them. Welcome back to another episode of Cameron Reads Comics. On today's episode, I'm going to be talking about Batman Deadpool #1 by Grant Morrison and Dan Mora. So, going into this one, this is the second DC Marvel crossover that has come out recently in print. The Marvel version of the same crossover was Deadpool Batman with a bunch of crossover stories within there. Now this one is Batman Deadpool, which is obviously the headlining character. The first name character is going to be who the publisher is, which is the easy thing to remember, but also terribly confusing when you're talking to others. Yeah, so I actually did a review of that Deadpool Batman. Go check it out. Great story, great runs, great little stories. Unfortunately for Marvel though, this is the one I was waiting for, was Batman Deadpool, because it was written by Grant Morrison with art by Dan Mora. So we'll just hop into it. This story was incredible. Grant Morrison was really firing on all cylinders, and I think that like the core theme, the core idea of this story was breaking the fourth wall, because in comics that is something Grant Morrison has notoriously done. Obviously, it was also just like incredibly self-referential. I think was the other priority, was to reference all the other DC Marvel crossovers in some capacity and like what those looked like. And unlike the Deadpool Batman crossover, Grant Morrison kind of gives us a reason as to why this is happening, and that is because the two cosmic entities of DC and Marvel, and I don't know what they are, I forget their names right now, but I've seen them before. They meet in a bar and sleep together for a one-night stand. And so I think the umbrella for which all these stories are happening is because, you know, these two are colliding, therefore DC and Marvel are colliding. And that's where we get these great stories. And so that's the background of everything going on for these. You know, you just find Batman and Deadpool meeting because Deadpool was after someone, or Deadpool was after a weapon, and Batman knew where the weapon was. They're in this space that they don't quite understand, and it's kind of like a tunnel of love situation. What they do with that space is they explore it, and then thus they explore each other. They go through this tunnel of love, and then through there's just the maximum self-referential moments of DC and Marvel history. And then and throughout the story is also, with all these references are woven in, the work that Grant Morrison has done for both of these publishers over time, which, you know, you realize is incredible. And I'll say that the villain is the villain, you know, the big bad of the story, who they actually end up fighting, is a villain that Grant has created. And there's a couple characters that Grant has created in a lot of his runs, you know. It's not just referencing his DC stuff, it's referencing some of his Vertigo stuff. This kind of also informs some of my fear of Grant Morrison writing this, where it's just so meta, and it's so big, and it's so like, oh, I probably caught only 2/3 of the references that he was actually trying to make, because he's just on a different plane than I am. But overall, I loved the story. Dan Mora's art was absolutely bonkers incredible. I think it was really well done, and like, for all of the big swings that he was taking, they were all very justified, and like, there was good reasons for all the things happening. They weren't just happening. You know, he really did back up all these wacky ideas with plot and infrastructure. I don't know if that makes the story good as much as it does impressive, and maybe a little bit of both. So I really liked it. Next up, we have a bunch of the other crossovers, which DC just stacked these with talent. It's actually really incredible. First up, we have John Constantine and Doctor Strange, written by friggin' powerhouses. Like, I just can't rank which ones of these I was looking the most forward to, just by the way. So the powerhouses, James Tynion, Josh Williamson, and Scott Snyder wrote this. So it's just like DC heavy hitters. And all those guys are in a group chat together, just by the way. With Hayden Sherman as the artist, Mike Spicer as the colorist. Again, just look at that lineup, dude. That is crazy. This one was a really great story, characterizing the differences between the universes of the Marvel Universe and DC's universe. You know, Constantine being a dark, shady, Vertigo character, and Doctor Strange being a hero and the Sorcerer Supreme. What does magic and the forces of magic look like in these two universes? But then how do these characters interact? It's just really interesting, and they learn a lot about each other, and panel layout is incredible. I'm like, wow, Hayden Sherman, I love you on everything you're doing, but now I need you on a magic book. I need you to use your panel layout skills to just explore magic. That guy just knows all the rules and knows how to break them all. Look at the preview pages for that. It's unreal. And then I've never really read any Constantine books, but it makes me want to go read Justice League Dark by Tynion, because this is just really, really, really well done. Okay, next up was the Nightwing Laura Kinney Wolverine title, and I just freaking love this one. This one was the one I was looking forward to the most. It was Tom Taylor and Bruno Redondo writing, so the old Nightwing team rides together again. Tom Taylor also wrote the all-new Wolverine Laura Kinney series. So it's really a book about legacy and just all those feel-good moments. Again, vastly showing how different the characters were to one another, what their motivations are, what they think of the other character, simultaneously as this adventure is happening. For this story, they're just trying to find Laura's little sister who got taken in the Gotham City sewer. I'll let you assume who in the sewer took them, but then how they get to the bottom of it together and how their different styles work, and then what that makes them think of each other. This story I love because it's very simple, and it doesn't need to be more complicated than focusing on character. Next up, we have a short story, Harley Quinn and Incredible Hulk, and this one is written by Mariko Tamaki and Amanda Connor. So Mariko Tamaki, freaking all-star writer extraordinaire right now, just blowing up. And Amanda Connor, really famous from her and Jimmy Palmiotti's Harley Quinn run, extensives, of course had to come back for this little story. I loved this. Super fun. Super, Amanda Connor's art style was absolutely gorgeous for this story. And Mariko Tamaki just made it really, really fun. So I was absolutely stoked to read this and see the story as it was. Just like Hulk and Harley up to some chaos at a carnival. That's really all you need to know the story is. And then lastly was Static Miss Marvel by G. Willow Wilson with art by Dennis Cowan. This one, it felt good. G. Willow Wilson's really having a moment, and I can't wait to read her Poison Ivy run because it's so popular right now. Obviously, she rose to such prominence with her Ms. Marvel Kamala Khan run, and just to have Dennis Cowan come in and do the art for all of this and do his milestone static art, I'm like, that was so sick. So just two young characters trying to live up to legacy and the expectations that are put on them by their families while they're being heroes, and then just to have a moment to work together and have that mutual understanding, especially two teens of color, and bring that point of view and experience. Not so heavy-handed in this story, but a factor nonetheless that brings these characters a little bit together and makes them understand each other a little bit more. So super good. Great story, great art. Those two, the Harley and Hulk Static Ms. Marvel stories, are probably the shortest, but really good. Really just a moment. Not super complicated stories by any means. Super simple, and it doesn't need to be complicated or heavy with plot to be good. It was just good. So I loved this whole run. This DC Marvel crossover was so good. So I'm excited to see more. I'm going to be reviewing more of the digital stuff too that DC and Marvel are putting out on their Unlimited apps. So I'm trying to cover all of these crossovers as they're happening. Yeah, let me know what you thought. I also picked up Infinity variant covers for this story. So I can't wait to drag these books around at cons and have them get signed by the creators. I think that'll be the most fun. So my name's Cameron. I don't just read comics. I love them. Let me know what you thought about these stories in the comments. See you guys next time.